When you face death, you never know how much you're alive until you face death.
Death is death. A person said one time, he said, "That's a horrible way of dying." I said, "What is a good way? Could you tell me what a good way is to die?"
In the United States, around 2,500 people are currently on death row, awaiting their sentences in 29 states. Their last 24 hours follow a structured process, from early wake-up calls to the final meal, last words, and eventually, the execution. So, let's take a look at what the final day is really like on death row. Capital punishment, also known as the death penalty, is one of the most controversial topics in the United States. While most Western countries have outlawed it, the U.S. still uses it for certain severe crimes. As of today, around 2,500 people are waiting for their final sentences to be carried out across 29 states. The rest of the states have banned the death penalty, creating a divide within the country. The crimes that lead to this sentence vary, but they generally involve acts like murder. Some federal crimes, like espionage or treason, can also land someone on death row. For most death row inmates, waiting for their execution takes years, sometimes even decades. Living on death row is far from ordinary prison life. Inmates are kept isolated and have limited interaction with others. Their days are highly structured, with strict rules on visitation, phone calls, and daily routines. The psychological toll of waiting can be overwhelming, as they are constantly reminded that their days are numbered. Many inmates face severe mental health issues because of this prolonged isolation. Unlike other prisoners, death row inmates rarely have access to programs that would allow them to improve their lives or pass the time. This long, solitary wait makes life on death row an almost unique form of punishment. The few interactions they do have, like meetings with lawyers or spiritual advisors, become the highlights of their lives. As an inmate approaches their final day, they're taken from their usual cell to a place known as the death house. This building is separate from the main part of the prison, often located near the execution chamber. The move is done with strict security measures, including thorough searches to ensure the inmate doesn't have anything they could use to harm themselves. This is because prisons want to maintain control over the entire process, ensuring that the state carries out the sentence, rather than any last-minute actions by the inmate. Execution day begins early. Inmates are typically woken around 4 a.m. to start their final hours. This early start gives them time to prepare mentally and allows the prison staff to carry out each scheduled step of the day. The inmate has the option to meet with loved ones one last time, or to speak with a chaplain if they want spiritual comfort. These moments are often emotional, as the reality of what's to come hits both the inmate and their loved ones. Some may choose to make phone calls or simply sit quietly, reflecting. As the morning goes on, outside visits are no longer allowed. The inmate is left alone with the chaplain, guards, and other prison personnel. These last conversations can be difficult and sometimes silent. This morning marks the last chance for any legal intervention, and updates are monitored closely, though last-minute reprieves are rare. Each passing hour brings the inmate closer to their final moment, intensifying the atmosphere. On execution day, every detail must be perfect. The prison staff spends part of the day testing the equipment to ensure nothing goes wrong. This includes checking all the machinery, monitoring systems, and making sure everything is in working order. Staff members follow a strict protocol, often consulting manuals and past experiences to confirm that every tool, switch, and monitor works as expected. The equipment varies depending on the method of execution. In most cases in the U.S., lethal injection is used, requiring an IV setup, a gurney, and a system to deliver the drugs. Staff run through the steps several times, often setting up backup systems in case something fails. This intense preparation is designed to keep the procedure as smooth and controlled as possible. At the same time, prison officials stay in touch with legal representatives in case there are any last-minute appeals. The goal is a straightforward process, but the reality is heavy, as everyone is aware of what's to come. Around midday, the inmate is served a regular prison meal. Unlike the last meal, which they may get later, lunch is typically no different from what other inmates receive. This meal doesn't hold any special significance for the inmate. but it can serve as a reminder of routine on an otherwise extraordinary day. They might have something as simple as a sandwich or pasta, depending on the prison's menu. Guards are usually present during this meal, observing the inmate to ensure there's no attempt at self-harm. Some inmates may eat quietly, while others may have lost their appetite, unable to focus on food with so much on their mind. The last meal is one of the most well-known parts of a death row inmate's final day. It's a custom that dates back centuries, meant to offer the condemned a final moment of indulgence. Many imagine it as a grand feast, but in reality, there are limitations. Prisons often set a budget, and requests for elaborate meals are usually turned down. The inmate may choose something simple, like a burger or a pizza, and sometimes they request food with sentimental value, a meal that reminds them of home or happier times. This meal can bring mixed emotions. For some inmates, it's a chance to savor something they enjoy, while for others, it may feel like an empty gesture. Not every state offers a last meal, but where it's available, the ritual can provide a small comfort. The inmate is generally left alone to eat, but guards keep an eye on them to ensure the process remains safe. Afterward, they're one step closer to the final moments, and the staff begins preparing for the next steps. After their last meal, the inmate is asked to shower and change into a new uniform. This uniform is often simpler and neater than regular prison clothes, and it's part of the formal process leading to the execution. In cases involving the electric chair, inmates also have their heads shaved to ensure proper contact with the electrodes. This preparation can feel like a ritual, each step marking the inmate's progression toward the end. For the inmate, the new uniform and the required grooming may feel surreal. After years of wearing standard prison clothes, this change might make the upcoming event seem even more real. Guards carry out these preparations with professionalism, aware of the gravity of each step. As the hour approaches, the inmate is escorted from their cell to the execution chamber. This is known as the last walk, a short but emotionally intense journey surrounded by guards. There's a strict protocol, and the inmate is often shackled for security reasons. Guards hold them firmly, sometimes walking arm in arm, keeping the moment solemn and controlled. The path to the chamber is typically quiet, with everyone fully aware of the gravity of what's about to happen. The execution chamber itself is designed for a specific purpose, usually set up with a gurney for lethal injection or a chair for electrocutions. Witnesses play a unique role in the execution process. The state usually allows specific people to observe, including the victim's family, the inmate's family, selected members of the media, and sometimes state officials. Each state has its own rules about who can attend, but the experience is often emotionally intense for everyone involved. Witnesses are seated in a separate viewing area, typically behind a glass partition that allows them to see the inmate but not interact directly. The setup is designed to maintain order and prevent any interruptions. In some cases, the viewing area is divided, allowing the victims and inmates' families to sit separately. The viewing is quiet and heavily supervised, as prison staff must ensure that emotions don't disrupt the procedure. Before the execution begins, the inmate is given a chance to make a final statement. This tradition is a solemn one, allowing the condemned to express any last thoughts, feelings, or regrets. Some use this moment to apologize, make peace with their past, or even maintain their innocence. Others choose silence, feeling that no words are left to say. The prison staff records the final words, and they're sometimes released to the media if permitted by law. The lethal injection process is detailed and structured to ensure that it's carried out as smoothly as possible. A trained medical professional prepares the IVs, usually inserting one into each arm to create a steady flow for the drugs. The process is precise, with every step carefully monitored by the medical team. Despite the purpose, the staff follows standard medical protocols, such as cleaning the area with alcohol, maintaining a controlled and professional environment. Once the inmate is connected, the executioner, often stationed in a separate room, administers the drugs through a series of buttons or levers. Each drug has a specific role. After the execution, the prison staff follows a set protocol to handle the aftermath. The inmate's body is removed from the chamber and prepared for release to the family, or in some cases, handled by the state if unclaimed. Each detail, from paperwork to documentation, is meticulously recorded to ensure that the entire process is complete. For the family of the victim and the inmate, this moment may bring mixed feelings of closure and sadness. The last words of death row inmates can often reveal surprising emotions, regrets, or even moments of peace. Kimberly McCarthy and Richard Moore are two inmates whose final statements left a strong impact, giving us a glimpse into their thoughts and feelings at the very end. Kimberly McCarthy's story is both tragic and unsettling. In 2013, she became the 500th person to be executed by lethal injection in Texas. Her case had drawn a lot of attention due to the brutal murder of her elderly neighbor, Dorothy Booth, back in 1997. On her execution day, Kimberly's final words surprised many. Rather than expressing anger or fear, she spoke with a sense of calm and faith. She said, "This is not a loss. This is a win. You know where I am going. I am going home to be with Jesus. Keep the faith. I love y'all. Thank you, chaplain." Her words showed that she found comfort in her faith, viewing her execution not as the end, but as a new beginning. Another recent case, Richard Moore from South Carolina, final moments, also left a lasting impact. When it came time for Moore's execution, he shared a heartfelt message. He spoke directly to Mahoney's family, saying, "To the family of Mr. James Mahoney, I am deeply sorry for the pain and sorrow I caused you all." He also expressed love and pride for his children and granddaughters. If you found this video interesting, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more content like this. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear what you think.